Vodafone presents the pre-match.
That's right, the pre-match indeed. It's time to start talking about our first matchup of the EU Minor, OpTic versus Vitality here in Poland. Katowice to be exact, and the Minors are going to be a long process for some of these teams, always looking to battle uphill and probably trying to make it easier on themselves. Welcome back to the analyst desk. It's time for that pre-match. It's going to be Sponge, Natu, and myself to walk you right into this game. And boys, maybe we start talking about Vitality first. Maybe we start talking about Vetoes first. There's a whole lot of variables that are going on here. Some real optics on the situation.
We could maybe blend the two in the discussion, right? I want to get this out of the way early. I think this is going to be the minors and majors of Dust2, right? Because when that's come back into the pool, I don't think it's been integrated as quickly as what I personally thought it would have been. I think now's the point in where teams have had the break. They're going to have practiced. We're going to see a lot of that, and we're going to see a lot more Orgs and Kriegs coming in. That's the SSG for those who don't understand the terminology. But going into this is why I think this is one that could just be a Dust2, right? Yugi loves the AWP. You got Zaiwu on that bad boy. It's quite roamy. I think the way it's being played at the moment, though, is more structured. So teams might be looking at this as a weakness that maybe other squads haven't practiced. And coming into this off of the player break, you get that opportunity, right? So it's going to be interesting to see where we end up on this one.
Well, how about we do just that, Chad? We're going to take you down that path right now and find out what map it is that we're going to be fighting over here on our best of one. And the Vetoes are going to start flying in, boys. Any win conditions right off the bat for these Vetoes?
I mean, the fun thing, if you look at Vitality's win percentages on different maps, it looks pretty tasty. You got like 100% on Inferno, 14 wins, but obviously those are not kind of stats that you might be looking at as much. There's a couple of wins that are bigger ones, like against Motorsports, for example, but at the same time, they're not something that you can really count on in terms of what it comes down to.
So I'm surprised as well, that it's come through this quickly, and with the choice between Mirage and Dust2, the French scene not necessarily historically
it's
Mirage
a very French
teams.
Map. Well, also, Dust2 I can think of a bunch of times where French teams have been wrecking everyone on Dust2.
Yeah, I think Dust2 is probably a good place for these guys to end up, especially like once you have the entry frag potential of someone like Apex. You can think about how this one can unfold, and it is a bit of a juicy morsel in that regard. But I want to go back to the point we made earlier. This team, I think they're going to be very hungry, having to go from being a team with players who have won majors, Apex and MBK, to now having to go back through the entire system just to get to this point of minors with a star player like Zaiwu. I think it's going to click very nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, you are talking about players that have gone through the system. They've done this from the grassroots all the way up from the bottom, and humility isn't something that they can even begin to think of when they come this far, because we've got a lot of new guns out there, and they're all equally hungry for this part of the major.
I mean, you have players on Vitality that have already tasted the high of winning big tournaments, winning big championships, and I feel like they've been thrown down low enough for them to really realize that now it's a time that we need to grind it, and I'm sure they have.
Well, let's throw it to them real quick. We do have some commentators ready to go, and I believe both of you just said that you think OpTic's going to win, right? All right, cool. So we're going to be moving forward, and that's actually not what the analysts said, but the commentators might say just that. We've got Scrawny and Launders ready to get us into the action, and I believe this bad boy's ready to kick off right about now.
We most certainly are ready, Stunna. So ready, in fact, there's already been damage dealt here to both Zaiwu and Snappy. So Dust2, Launders, that is where this one unfolds. Our first European matchup, and I couldn't be any more excited. I think this one could be incredibly close or a total blowout. It's all up in the air here in Katowice.
It definitely can be. Long control taken early for Vitality. 4 players all ready to go, and there is cat control for OpTic. RPK, the only player ready to challenge it, gets a dink off, which is huge. And now he's got a big rotate around to get back to anywhere useful. Decides to peek into lower, gets killed as 4 of his teammates make their way up to the site.
Yeah, Snappy, he tries to commit to that smidgen of a gap he had to work with within the smoke. However, that leaves him in no man's land. So he dies within the elbow. And it leaves it to Vitality's advantage. Not only with the bomb plant, but a 4 versus 3. Kit not currently on any of the OpTic members, but they do have a smoke on Cajun, who's worked his way up from ramp with Yugi by his side. Another headshot, that's 3. And Apex can only get 1 of his own. So it's OpTic to take the first pistol.
Nice, a pretty simple retake there with the USPs. Good kills from most players on the team. Yugi and Cajun contributing with 2 apiece. Diffuse comes out. Vitality don't win the round, but they come close, and I like the strategy. I think the only awkward part of it was RPK and lower, finding a way for him to be useful without having to have him have a huge rotate around through spawn was the difficult part. But because he got his gush off, that was huge. And then he came back for more, and that was his choice. I think it would have been difficult for him to go back through playground, into spawn, out to long, and just assume that his teammates would be fine without him. So you can't blame him for looking for another fight. Now, it's going to be a buy-up as MBK has picked up a scout. We've got 3 Galeals on the board. Not my favorite weapon, but no, just not my favorite. Probably
you're a real critic.
Very low on the tier list of guns for me.
Real critic when it comes to the Galil. I'm more of a FAMAS man myself, so we're in the same boat, Launders.
Someone compared it to an M4 that is less accurate. And so I said, it's like an M4, except the bullets don't go where you want them to.
Precisely.
So.
Speak of the FAMAS, we've got one here for Config, or maybe I should use the past tense. ZywOo instantly dinks him, drops him down, and MBK with a swift headshot through the eyes of Yugi has cracked this A site wide open, so Vitality really rebounding for the moment. I mean, they have 3 kills up, nothing's really been done back by OpTic, and Cajun and Refresh are nowhere to be found.
That's amazing. Those are incredible entries right there. They get the 3 pieces, not a single player down for Vitality. So they invest everything they have, and NBK knifes RPK. It might, I don't know if replay is possible on that, but I'd like to get a second look for sure. It's not a kill that they wanted to have happen, especially not go down by their own teammates' hands. Economy's not going to be in a terrible place, so that's one thing they have going for them. But yeah, an interesting way to start the map.
That's all right. Goofs and gaffs and laughs all around. Not so much here on this side. That's a bit of a hard pill to swallow. Straight out the gates, you've got your pistol, you think all is fine and dandy, and then ZywOo and NBK have something to say about it.
Yeah, even though MBK hit his scout headshot, I thought it was just interesting that there wasn't head armor bot on whoever it was playing on A ramp, and so he was susceptible to dying to almost any gun, maybe even a Galil.
Well, there's more scouts in play. This time one for a Refresh. I'm all for this. I had an absolute blast watching this man do his magic at Blast Lisbon when, of course, he stood in for Cloud9. You know, that Fragsters lineup, they really started to turn some heads throughout 2018. And then, you know, this is what happens sometimes. You have one guy who seems to be kind of a step above and beyond, and that was Refresh. Consistently at the top of that team. No surprise that, you know, he wanted to sink his teeth into bigger projects. So this is it. And like Sponge was speaking of on the desk, the core fragging lineup here with OpTic, I think, is at its all-time high. I mean, Yugi, Config, Refresh. If these 3 players can't make magic happen, who can? But they've started it off with at least 1 kill to their favor. Config from behind the boxes cannot rail ahead to the side of Cat. Maybe Yugi can at an even further distance, but it's a tall order to ask.
Yeah, it's not quite good. Bomb goes down for a Cat plant. Looks like they want to hunt out this one Deagle that they initially spotted in Yugi, and he gets killed. Cajun and Refresh have a decision to make, and it looks like they're going to opt to go the passive route and save. They have this M4 that they want to take care of, and it's something we want to bring to the next round. You definitely have to consider that if you lose the first round, or if you lose the second round, so you get eco'd in some fashion, and they got, it was a force up from Vitality, but you lose a round like that, you have to decide. Do you want to try to save for a couple of rounds and just hold the L, or do you want to reinvest versus players who are going to have very good guns the next round and you only got a single kill? Because if you only got a single kill, I mean, you're going to be going up against a very fortified buy, which is the troubling part, I think. And so I honestly am not sure if I was OpTic if I would have decided to buy, but it's easier to say that in retrospect now that they lost the round so convincingly. But that being said, at least they were able to recycle a couple of guns. Config, Snappy, Cajun are going to sit on 2K, not going to invest further than that. And we'll see what the eco strat is, assuming a smoke has been used for the cross. 3 players go for the stack towards B. Yugi gets tagged through the door, I believe, as he's just trying to spot to top mid.
Refresh ready to strike here. Remember, 2 primary weapons picked up for OpTic. That and the Scout. Speak of the devil, Yugi right over the edge of the box as Apex tries to work his way forward. Luckily, NBK is there to trade. and Refresh still looms near. The spray down does not work out to his favor, and Nathan's going on a bit of a tear now. That's his third frag in the round, single-handedly dispatching of the mid-hold here from OpTic. But does he anticipate another 2 players? Whether he anticipated it or not, it's now been spotted, and RPK picks up those pieces. So clean movements from Vitality moving forward to the 3-1 lead they'll go.
Yeah, full control of mid, and at that point, all the frags came their way, no problem. OpTic aren't going to think too hard about that. They've got a buy up now. They have the M4s in hand. Yugi will be picking up an op right away. Snappy is the last one to decide what he's going to buy, and it's going to be an AUG. He has only enough money after that to get a smoke. They've got enough smokes to go around, but the rest of the utility is going to be somewhat sparse. There's a total of 0 kits on the board, and Yugi has a completely naked op, so the setup is going to be quite volatile. I don't know what kind of aggression we're about to see, but it looks like a cat push is on the docket for OpTic Gaming. As they move up, Yugi in the back lines, and there is no one from Vitality here, but with long control, they can go back and take it, really threaten this cat. And because the players here are so squishy, it might end up being a nade dump for players who come back to mid at once long control has just been solidified, and it seems like they are sitting on this for quite a long time, expecting a retake, I want to say. One man in lower. And we're just past the minute mark. CTs are sitting pretty. I think they feel like there aren't too many options for them at this moment. They're worried about long. The B presence is going to affect their mental state at the moment, because I think they're going to freak out about this, and it's actually Cajun to try to support with some spam through the smoke, but from this lower position is not going to be too useful to his cat players.
No, not so much. So it's really these other players for OpTic within the A site that have to come into fruition, but Yugi's not going to be able to find an angle. The smoke grenade's just blanketing this bomb site until Snappy does emerge, and here comes Config with a kill towards mid. That leaves all 3 of Vitality's left players here on the ramp, and they are still going to do a good enough job to get bomb on site, but it falls on RPK to clutch this 1 versus 3. And the utility here for OpTic comes in the form of a smoke and flash. So no Molotov to force him out. He does, on his own accord, decide to move forward, and he's going to take that duel to his demise. Config grabs another, as does OpTic. A second round to the board.
Yeah, good try in the 1v3, but ultimately it comes down to, I guess, OpTic not having to move too much, and the little bit of B presence that Vitality did throw at them probably made them worried, because if they were stuck in a cat setup without long control and they knew that players were going B, they might have had to rotate in a position where they didn't know if anybody was top mid or if anybody was in lower, which there was one, and that could have made it very difficult. But I guess fortunately for them, it just continued to be an A play, and since they had one piece of map control, they were able to use that to hold. And the kills come out, and it ends up being a very favorable 3v1 situation for OpTic Gaming. So they're not quite out of it yet. So goes for the tag on the cross, but comes up short. Yugi here being aggressive one more time. And I definitely like on CT side to implore like one aggressive option each round, whether it be a long push, a cat push, or a mid stack or something or the other. A lot of it is very non-committal, as we can see there. For example, you can take that shot, fall off for free, go for a tag. If he doesn't get it, whatever, he can fall back to this next angle. And all the while, they've got long control, so.
Right. The beauty of that is that now he could fall one further, play off of Car, fall back and continuously try to draw them forward. I mean, Config, he's ready to spring his trap. He could be good for 1, if not 2 frags, but very committed in this position. Odds are it won't be Molotov. It's not going to be tried to be countered with nades. As long as he doesn't get blinded by a flashbang, he should be good to knock down some pegs here. But, oh my god. Apex has other ideas. Swings out, instant headshot, and while Snappy may maintain long, it is still Cat in question. Again, we mentioned that Yugi could hold this off with that op alone, but having lost Config without him finding a single kill, there's a lot of bodies here.
Look at that. The Snappy's actually going for the push right away, so he definitely has a read, and because now he's top mid, the Cat plan is no longer safe. This suddenly becomes a much more viable round. Clock's just under 30 seconds. 4 players grouped up on Cat, and they're already getting fast flanked.
Snappy, he could hit this nail on the head, and he most certainly seems to. Picking up that first one for free, can't manage a second versus Apex, and Yugi, well, he's just ejected all the way back down towards long. The rotators for OpTic, they're going to be inside of CT spawn. And now they've lost all that cat control. So Apex drops downwards. He nearly nabs a double. Refresh will stop him at 5 HP the difference. Can he find the kill versus ZywOo? Because that would be huge. It would enable Yugi to come that much closer, but now Yugi's gone over his shoulder, so Refresh has to clutch, and that's never going to happen. They had him outgunned. They knew exactly where he was, and they were confident in that after plant.
I got to say, that kind of looked like, to me, a sloppy round both ways, where Vitality go for the cat control. They wait an extended period of time without making any further moves, and when it's understood what their setup is, Snappy takes it upon himself to push long after realizing that it is probably going to be this 4-1 setup. For whatever reason, it seemed like he was well prepared because he wasn't clearing many angles when he ran through. But after he fast flanked, you know, he got his 1 kill and then went back for more. Didn't have a teammate to come behind him to follow up on the cat play, even though he knew long was totally clean, and that was the most important choke point. And then Vitality almost end up blowing the after plant, jumping into CT spawn for a kill. It just seemed like they were being a little bit too sloppy on both sides. Not the cleanest Counter-Strike in my opinion.
I was just a bit surprised to see Snappy, once he goes for that flank so effectively on Cat, I'm a little surprised that neither of the 2 B rotators actually join him in mid. You know, they opt to go through CT spawn.
He's a free escort.
Right.
They can take his place.
With lots of info.
On Cat, and he fast flanked in such a deliberate way that you knew he was aware that it was going to be a Cat play, and when he turned the corner, he saw 3 to 4 players. So they'll have to write that one off, and Apex will have to shake that one off.
Yeah, a little bit of early damage done, but that goes both ways. Cajun as well, sitting on 29. Everybody's cool in their jets. Whoops.
Typically, you want to throw the Molotov, so it just bounces a little bit farther, and then you spam through the door.
You normally want to throw it at your opponents,
right?
Not yourself.
Yeah. Mulling yourself out is never a good idea.
That's how it tends to work.
There's no stack. They've got kind of like a setup you would use on a rifle round for the CTs. They've just got a little bit of cat presence on an angle that could be flashed off, and a nice peek from Config takes the face right off of MBK and brings the advantage into their favor.
Refresh cleared from the box immediately. RPK Swift headshot 2. So that B defense, which looked like it could have set itself up with those deagles, gets absolutely nothing done. Good attempts, but nothing more. Damage, Launders. Damage is certainly there. Look at Apex and Alex. Lucky to be alive. I'm excited for this Alex addition to the Vitality roster. I can't lie to you, Launders. You know, he had a core impact on LDLC, a team again that we saw up and come throughout 2018. Now included to, again, a teammate that we mentioned have so much experience behind them, like Apex, RPK, and NBK. These are legends of Counter-Strike. So you throw ZywOo, one of the hottest prospects in all of the world, alongside a, I would argue now, proven newcomer. You know, he's done enough within the Tier 2 scene to be justified as a good inclusion.
Oh yeah, ZywOo is the simple of Counter-Strike.
Right, these guys are ready. You know, there was only one player at the entire European qualifier who had a higher rating than ZywOo to get here, and that's Poison of Wendigo.
And we'll see him later today.
Right, exactly. Or actually, is it concurrent? No, sir, it is later. So yeah, you're right. It'll be in the next best of one. Exciting, exciting stuff. More exciting, of course, than seeing OpTic Gaming unfortunately stand with only one scout and a single AK. Not the first time they've been here, this map.
So far, Vitality have played a very simplistic brand of Counter-Strike. A lot of 4-1s, and they haven't been trying to work on too many other options. When they go and take long, they go and take cat, then they kind of commit to it. That's what we've seen so far. Trade comes out at long, which favors the T's if MBK wants to go out and clear out long, but it looks like he's going to stay back for a bit. So it's kind of a stalemate. But again, not a great buy for OpTic Gaming.
Nice spray. Apex continues on it. Clears up actually both of those weapons. So the two guns we talked about for OpTic cleared in one foul swoop. Refresh starts to move over and he's spotted on the cross, damaged and done for. Must be RPK's like 4th wallbang frag at this point. And Cajun, while he has the element of surprise, should be sniffed out. ZywOo drops him with the pistol.
Pretty clean stuff. Pretty clean stuff. Round 9. Full buy up. Snappy one more time grabs the AUG. Yugi's going to be opting. Last time we saw him, I think he was using a boost on short. I like the aggressive options early on that we've seen so far from OpTic. It just seems like the one round that we saw, like a lot of success was when Vitality went straight up for a long. And another round, OpTic could have definitely won if they had just played maybe a little bit more carefully when they did hold on to long. So now we've got more presence over towards B, bomb outside and playground. And the op to try to lead. I don't know if he walks in after this Molotov, but they have kept it pretty simple. So it looks like that might be the case. Refresh, first man up. Ooh, and first man down.
Yep, swift headshot once more. Bomb left back, of course, so not a complete capitalization on the situation, but Apex will do one better. Finds Yugi and, most notably, spots out Config. So one of these two oppers has been found. Cajun still yet to strike, but he just wants to exit. You know, this is a big investment coming in from the green wall. These green cannons don't want to be lost. Oh, but Apex gets a chance, nearly finding the frag as he exits.
Yeah, the setup that Vitality go for there is just kind of like a one that if it rains, then it pours, where they go into B, but at the same time they have a lurk being very aggressive at mid, and if the kill in B comes out, then a player might get caught rotating at the same time. And then at that point, you had a Cajun out in the open in between mid and B, making sure that he's not going to die from one or the other angle, spinning around. And it's just awkward for everybody in that situation. So I like that Vitality are keeping it simple. I really am a big fan of using as few nades as possible if you can. I mean, it's just more money for you. It's more options later in the round. If it does come down to a very sketchy mid-round situation, and it also allows you to keep your kind of more deeper set plays in your back pocket, you know, for the later, for the future rounds if you need to.
Right, for those nitty-gritty moments when you most truly need them. That, to me, is a bit of a tragedy. Config dies within like 2 seconds at the end of the round. You know, the whole point was to keep that second op in hand, and they're going to go ahead and lose it.
It didn't even look like his head was exposed.
Shown at all, right? If anything, that frag I thought would be through the box.
Bang, yeah.
But MBK with other ideas.
All right, flash out towards long. Vitality have been pretty successful at taking this. Cat control again for OpTic Gaming, so we might have a rerun of that last round. Unfortunately, we don't see it with the same weaponry as the last round, so there won't be a direct comparison, but Vitality are speeding it up, leaving one man in pit. It's kind of classic Dust2 stuff. And coming back towards tunnel. The push has been made. However, MBK, did he spot it? Now he knows.
Ooh, and it's not just a pistol player, but Cajun on the op. He's got that escort in the form of Refresh just next to his side. So if they come pushing forward to try and pressure Cajun, well, he had that CZ to support. But now Refresh is gone, and Cajun, he wants another. Config even rails Apex straight to the side of long. And this is a 2-weapon purchase from OpTic for, I believe, like the 3rd time, finally seeming to work here in the 10th round. But it's not over yet. You still have ZywOo and RPK happily standing on 100 health apiece. Is there support for Config? That's the question, and there should be. Yugi, just down towards CT spawn, will have a chance as they attempt to cross, and Snappy's got that AUG over on Catwalk. So OpTic are trying to barrel their way over, but they can't do so fast enough to halt Vitality. They will get on site with bomb.
They could have, though, right? It seems like the rotations have been labored for some reason on OpTic. They're taking their time, even when they have a ton of information. I don't know if the communication isn't there, but it feels like they really just took it slowly. Yugi hears somebody right on top of him at default. Isn't going to jump for the P250 this time. 4v2. Doesn't want to throw caution to the wind. Cajun gets that first one. It's easy, and as well as that one for Snappy. Simple kills. They go for the retake. They get the defuse. They keep all 4 alive there on that round. Very successful overall. Very strange round, though, Connor.
Right.
Very strange round. Two kills coming out from a B push in upper tunnels after Vitality get A extremely quickly. MBK was holding from playground, watching for a B push, spotted one late, and then dry peeked the opper. And then his teammate Alex goes in to try to kill the opper. Once again, no nades. Once again, by himself. Once again, dry.
Yep, this one right here.
Yeah, to me, I don't see the strategy there. That seems like
Just mistakes.
It's yeah, it seems like just a mistake. It seems like maybe they just have too much freedom to do something like that, but that seems odd to me. If I'm the op and I'm in upper tunnels with my teammate who has a rifle, well, my rifling teammate has a high-low advantage on anyone coming in lower, and I can hold a fantastic angle, one of 5 angles, falling back into B site and be completely safe and know that no one can flank me. And if I'm thinking, honestly, I'm thinking the T's are never going to come into the tunnel, right? I mean, maybe they try to do it with nades, but there was over a minute left on the clock. They could have very easily gone back to long control, which they had. I feel like they took an unnecessary risk there.
Right. They paid the price for it, though, Lunders. Right. This is OpTic's 3rd round on the board. Comes off the back foot of one that they should have probably not picked up. As we said, those 2 primary guns seen for a 3rd time, and they do say 3rd time's the charm. So this time it does pan out. 4-point lead for Vitality. A creep and crawl to the edge of long, and Snappy is caught sleeping. Config and Yugi, however, will pick up a kill apiece, and Cajun even good for 1 here towards mid. So this split from Vitality has been stopped. It's been halted for the moment. But Bomb's still over behind Car. And of course, we have NBK in mid. Nice patience from Zywoo. He catches Yugi on the move. And unfortunately for the young gun of Vitality, he's lost his teammate. So what is this man made of? In a 1 versus 2 clutch with plenty of time to make up his mind, he will double back towards mid. And right into Cajun.
Yeah, pretty easy round for OpTic right there. That was nice stuff. Vitality, they kept it simple. They got long control. This time they took what they did last round, except they continued through. And when they went to the cross, there was no deep CT smoke because that would have taken time to pop. I think they wanted to bank on trying to catch players off guard. But once again, going for the dry peek play, which I'm not extremely mad at. I feel like they were onto something where they maybe took too long at long in the past, and they thought, okay, we can try to do this and catch the T's off guard. It just feels like in general they're being so loose that it's kind of costing them kills. So let's see if they do something different now. They've got a very standard default 2 and lower. MBK potentially assist their team on getting up towards Cat. Apex gets flashed across.
Cajun playing a dangerous game. He knows it. Most certainly with that flashbang popping off, he's going to take a more passive position. You can see him retreat within the doors and then reposition on window. So anticipating and inviting this mid push, which may or may not be. Vitality have consistently felt up this catwalk.
It's a really strong A setup, obviously, using Goose. It's hard to molly out to that very deep corner. And so if you have somebody who can help you crossfire with long, especially an op that could take attention away from you, it's going to be extremely difficult to kill that CT. And it's going to be on Vitality to try to stir up the rotates a little bit. Try to incentivize the CTs into going into a 2-1-2. Let them know that, hey, maybe this is a better idea where you can hedge your bets, but then we're still going to go A. But a split could also work.
Right.
3 players up at long. They've got to take 1 down in pit. Snappy was clean on his 1 kill last time, but this time it's going to be a bit more to ask for.
They're coming out as a conga line, nearly lining up for the follow-up frags, but he is only good for 1. Yugi burned off his initial position, but still safe enough to add another kill to the tally. Zywoo not needing a second off the op because RPK bails him out of Doom. It is config denied from Goose. And a 3v2 for Vitality. They know someone's over behind the car. Cajun trying to wallbang him. And now Alex will activate from the top of mid. Instantly damaging Refresh, popping him through the barrels, and then trying to follow up versus Cajun. But that op shall be saved, or at least that's the plan here for OpTic. They did a really good job, Vitality, of at least keeping those B-site defenders so committed. Cajun and Refresh, they used their utility as a counter play to the smokes that came out from tunnels, but the moment that smoke was thrown, that player rotated up to Cat and enabled for that 5-player split, which worked out to Vitality's 8th round.
It's got to be the first time that they officially split like 3-2 on the A site. It's been a 4-1 almost every time, and they haven't really activated the solo player. Just used him either as a lurk, or he didn't even come into play later in the round, or actually died a couple of times, so we didn't see what would have happened. But in that situation, you know, they were clean, great spacing. They traded Snappy out, put a great amount of pressure on him. The trade on Yugi was fantastic, and finally Config was put in an awkward spot, and they they were so good on the spacing, they ran up long extremely quickly and made it so that he couldn't isolate that one cat player and then take cover behind the default box. So overall, the explosiveness, like the ferocity was good.
Yeah, they didn't slow down whatsoever. Once the game plan was set in action, they followed through and through. Like you said, Config, he's trying desperately to isolate Yugi coming up from Catwalk, or excuse me, Zaiwu coming up from Catwalk, but RPK saves the day. Because that could have been the big play of the round. Config activating from the corner, dropping the cat player, fixating all of his attention on cross. Those players then exposed and potentially dropped by the rotators from B, despite them being delayed. However, doesn't unfold that way. So Vitality, as we said, grab an 8th, double the score of OpTic, and we'll continue to trudge along. Are double digits in the cards? That's the question.
So this has been quite an interesting game, for sure. Like, we're seeing a very, like, kind of unique way of approaching the majority of the rounds here from Vitality. OpTic are throwing a lot of different takes at them on the CT side, but for the most part are falling short when it matters. Here it is, minute 20, and we're up cat. They've also got a few different tempos. I feel like Vitality are going all the way down to the final seconds of the round, or executing in the first 30. Doesn't seem like there's much of an in-between phase either. So defensive Molotov, just shy them off of cat and try to counteract the effects of this smoke. Config here, getting prepared to get flashed into this.
I mean, this could work out so well for him. Yugi's going to be able to pluck one off the side now. Config, as the smoke fades, he comes into the fight. Good spray control for the second kill. Superb headshots from Config in what could be a flawless round on OpTic. But Alex still has a chance to tally up some costs. Unfortunately for him, the rest of this play is utterly shut down. So, Config, I mean, that takes balls to just hide inside of the smoke. Like you said, playing off the flash could have been the play, but instead he waits for it to fade and strikes at that time.
Yeah, he's got balls. I think he has like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You know, probably.
One hanging off his side, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the other one. I haven't seen any of them. So I mean,
just dangling off the back of his head, or?
I remember the first time I ever saw Config was at a minor in 2016. Walked into it was like the after party.
Yeah.
He was doing the worm on the dance floor. That was the first time I ever saw him.
Who'd you see doing the worm at a DreamHack tour once?
That was Config.
That was him too. Okay, all right. He's got a party trick, folks, and you know what it is.
He's Slytherin.
This is a bolstered long A setup, anticipating maybe some kind of aggression, setting up those smokes. They're all going to fall onto the lap of Snappy, who has been playing over from these corners before, but he's not going to be isolated because of this smoke wall. Instead, he joins his teammates on the site.
Yeah, they go for the 4-1 again. This is the same setup we saw where they went back to B, but instead of having NBK back in the spawn and passively watching the tunnels, he's inside of the tunnels so they know it's clear. So this could change things up. However, that op kill going down on Apex could bring it right back. They've now lost a player that they would normally, I think, 4-1 at mid with. Cajun.
Oh,
gonna have a friend or two to fight.
Nicely done. Damage there, at least substantial. Flash going to go past all of them, and Refresh instantly denied, as is Cajun. I mean, this entry is swift. No one's caught on the cross of the door. Bomb's going to be planted in a 4 versus 3. And Snappy already up close, maybe waiting for Config to activate the play. He's over in the tunnels, but he's smoked off at the moment, so he needs to hold his horses. And unfortunately for him, may soon have remorses because we've got a scope trained in on him. Flashbang delays what is already a bomb halfway tick. This is just OpTic looking for exits, and another round for Vitality.
Yeah, that's too much to chew. Config can't hit the spray either, so him dying is a pretty big deal. They have an awkward amount of money. Yugi and Snappy would probably have thought about buying, I think, next round if Config would have lived, and we're moving into we're actually moving into the last round, so they've got to buy regardless. Config's got enough for himself, so it's one teammate, Cajun B, who will be a little bit shortchanged. I don't know if he's going to have a drop. I might have misread this, actually. It looks like they've all got rifles, so I thought someone was going to be short. So he was fine to lose that. They did the math, folks. OpTic will be fine this round in terms of a buy. Vitality take B quite quickly. This time they're a little bit more careful about how they approach the big rotate back after they go for long control. But I like that they keep going back for long control since OpTic have basically given it up almost every single time or only had Snappy there late in the round.
Ooh, good flash on Cajun. Almost caught by Apex, but he's able to eject into the safety of the B site. Smoke goes down for the CT cross, and a counter flash is fantastic. Snappy only getting one. Zywoo, that's a very important trade frag here on mid. But Yugi, he's not going to sit and wait. He's not going to allow Vitality to make the play. Instead, he takes an initiative, shuts down the long player, and that immediately pushes Vitality back from Cat into the depths of mid.
It's got to be pretty terrifying to play against Vitality with the way that they're kind of moving around the map. It feels somewhat unpredictable what they might do as an adjustment if they lose a player. And you can see that Snappy immediately made the rotate back to site to ease up for his teammates over at middle and B. Refresh, does he decide to peek over the Molotov? He's got a distinct advantage since he's peeking so far away from the fire. It lessens the smoke a little bit. The boost comes up and Refresh is going to stay strong, but the boost is good enough to give RPK a favorable angle, leaving Cajun alone 1v2.
Yeah, not quite sure which side of the boxes to anticipate, so he's dropped there after. Config comes in from the window, dropping the bomb and trying to transition the spray, but now it is RPK who has to get this job done. And he doesn't go for bomb, he's going to go for the frags, but his AK is not ready for the push from Config, and that right there is the 6th round for OpTic. 6-9 is the end of the first half, folks. The second will begin after a short break. We will see you there. Vitality throwing curveballs, fastballs, and even a couple knuckleballs. Launders, that was one hell of a dynamic T-side, and it did give them a 9-6 advantage swapping over to the defense.
It was cool. It was a little old school. They did a few basic things. They did a lot of 4-1s, which are some of my favorite ways to approach a simple map like Dust2. And some of the time it felt like they didn't have a full plan for the whole round, and they didn't have all their bases covered when it came to variables like the upper tunnels push push that we saw that was so effective from OpTic. But overall, OpTic, they weren't fragging too well. The rotations were a little bit slow, and that allowed OpTic or Vitality to have some breathing room when it came to their own mistakes. I feel like the level of Counter-Strike is not exactly as high as I expected, but there's still some cool stuff and unique ways of playing so far.
Right. I personally think maybe a little bit of that boils down to the fact we're on Dust2. You know, you can kind of let those loose plays happen, but this one's not unfolding all too well here for OpTic. They have been shut down for the most part, Config alone. He would need the pistol ace, and that's not every day. So we shall see. He's at least got enough time to take a breath, try to reset the play. What would you do if you were him?
I would take a breath, for sure. I would take a breath. I'd maybe just take my hands off my mouse, wipe them on my pants real quick.
Yeah.
Right, do a quick prayer. Right, pray to Gaben, and then maybe I could do this while moving around. I could just take a walk around the map. There's a lot of time left over. Could wait to see if somebody goes for a push. And by this time, you've reset the situation. The CTs have calcified into their positions. You know that now, at this point, they've kind of spread out as evenly as they possibly could, and hopefully they're in the optimal positions, meaning that they're in the most predictable spots for you to go ahead and try to take them out one by one. So as Config comes in, he's not going to have time to clear every angle, but he's going to pick a few. Big box, maybe the back of double stack, and then the window, he sees one. That's going to give him some breathing room. But if he doesn't get that kill, there's 4 players that aren't going to allow him to plant, and that's made his job a whole lot harder. So,
yeah, I mean, he had one real chance at getting this entry. It had to be slippery smooth. Now, however, too many targets to take. No bomb plant either. That's Vitality picking up a second pistol.
yeah.
Or, I mean, they force bot and then one after the first pistol.
Which is even better.
You know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. That's even better sometimes. So they do come away with that one. It was a good attempt, I suppose, from OpTic, but it got shut down. And unfortunately, this game could get cut short as well. I don't know if OpTic are not going to decide to force up here on the T side. I think it was very fortunate that Vitality were able to win, but at the same time, they were hitting shots. They were feeling good, and they were running on confidence. So you can't blame them for trying. It's not going to be any upgrades except for Config, who's picked up a Deagle. It's an aggregation of all the Ts towards Cap, but they've got eyes on them. Will a play be made? Can Config get revenge for all of the rounds that went south at A as a player holding it? Find out next episode.
3 weeks later. Made a little bit of noise on the drop. Apex within earshot. Yeah, smart call, falls off. Even though they may not be equipped, OpTic Gaming about to flood forward off of mid. Alex will play responsively off of the box. The flash is there for him, and he's only able to grab himself one. The MP9 peak from Apex has taken a lot of damage, so I'm not surprised to see Refresh grab that frag. He was drawn forward step by step, taking increments of damage each time. But NBK from within the site clears up 2 over the shoulder of Snappy. Yugi still yet to activate from mid, but the bomb's been skewered and pinched and dropped, and it's all been cleaned up. It is shop closed here in what was the anti-eco. Yeah. So got a little scary at a moment or two, but all in all, it's good.
Yeah, majority alive for Vitality. They're looking good. OpTic Gaming going to go for the buy now. Config's 4,300, so he's going to have his couple of nades along with his AK and armor. Yugi has only got enough money to get the off, but that's kind of what he's been used to so far in this match already. And, you know, it's not totally imperative that an Opper has armor, but it can help, especially if you're holding onto an angle. Apex dodges a flash. I think he gets the info and hands it off to his teammate, RPK, up on Cat, who goes ahead and collects a kill. 4 players on A, all running through CT, deciding how they want to perform or rotate. And if they're hasty enough, they'll be just fine. But for the meantime, it's just MBK alone in the B site. So they've just got to find a way to cross to the left side of mid. Apex does do that off of a smoke. and suddenly they're back in their more traditional spots.
Right, they were so swift. There was such little hesitation from Vitality. They make their play and then transition into a standard setup in what seems like a blink of an eye. All the while, OpTic, they're just waiting for smokes to fade. So very proactive movement here from Vitality, and this is going to help them out. There is still the chance that one of these B players gets plucked by Yugi, who's trying to hone in on them from mid, but they've not gotten aggressive just yet. So the T's are going to have to make the move on their own accord. Apex deleted by Cajun B instantaneously, just like NBK as he tries to peek out from the windowsill. So it is OpTic to claw it back into a 3v3 situation from a 3v5.
With the post plant in the B side, I mean, it's at this point that Vitality might even decide to not go for this. However, ZywOo has a Molotov and a flash. That means you can pick a choke point, you can pick a position, and flush one player out if they wanted to go for it. Instead, it seems like they're gonna take this, take their money, they take their guns into the next round and try again, and you can't blame them. Hard site to retake on, and just a really difficult spot with just how much time was left after the rotates came out. 3 dedicated to A, so there wasn't that 2-1-2. There wasn't a player in spawn to try to push out for a cheeky kill as the players were splitting on the site.
Ooh, costly, at the very least.
Yeah, no, very costly.
That's serious damage.
That went a lot better than I expected. I anticipated that they would go probably safe through tunnels, but they didn't know where the last 2 players were. So they make it happen.
Oh, yeah, this is a replay. Okay, whoa.
Yeah, Apex was lucky to be live in that situation.
Right,
they did the boost at mid, and he turned from a flash, but I think they tried to clear him and just didn't notice that he was there, ran right by.
It's okay, the flashbangs came back to bite him. You could see him get flashed out of the B site when he tried to take that initiative on mid and shut down the split, but the 2 players weren't blind at all, and that's what cost him. This time, 2 players get active, push into the tunnels. I know you love to see that.
I love the tunnels crush. You know, I love to see the tunnels crush on CT side. I wish more teams did it, so that's a sick call by me. It's terrifying for the T's knowing that they've lost tunnels presence to be stuck out at long, which is normally a very good piece of map control, and now have to be forced to use a very good piece of map control because you have to assume the CTs are going to be overly prepared for this, as they are. ZywOo throwing the flash across to long, but will it be too late? RPK awkwardly jumping up on the boxes on the site, but he finds a very good angle and has the help of Apex.
Nice little 2-man dance there from Vitality. Good support from ZywOo, sets up his team fantastically. And that cuts it all down to Yugi alone. Considering, of course, the economic losses that they had to endure at the end of the previous round, with the bomb exploding and that exit crunch from Vitality, I mean, a clean sweep of a round like this would be huge for the French. Momentum-wise, they could soar forward, like we saw them do at the beginning of their T side. I mean, remember, they won 7 of the first 9 with a reset smack dab in the center and a reset in the second round after pistol. So this would be a big one. This is calling back to the first half, Mohan. Smooth moves.
Yeah, the only time you can't really get a player into lower very easily is if you think they're opping. If they're opping from spawn, you can throw a deep mid smoke, but that can be a tell, which can draw the attention of upper players to come and clear you in lower. But with the double tunnels push, that can actually be good by itself. They just had the 3-person move to make sure that they had insurance.
Right. I'd just like to note, I don't know if you guys noticed from home, but the trajectory of that flashbang from ZywOo goes through the smoke that was on the site, the one RPK was trying to climb over, bounces off the railing of the cement next to ramp, and that pops it just high enough to really blind anybody who's underneath it. So like that's a really good lineup smoke that came out of what seemed like a very hectic situation. You know, sometimes people just throw them in the air and hope for the best, but that's very clearly a planned flashbang. So good on him to be ready. Little set piece and the 2-punch combo between Apex and RPK that just smothered OpTic in this most previous round. But this one's going to be a different change of pace. They charge straight forward into the B site, and with only pistols, of course, Launders, of course, they get these smooth, buttery entries and plant their bomb on top of it.
Yeah, when in doubt, rush B, I suppose. That's a good way to get into the site. And again, another situation where, yeah, they've got a lot more time this time around, but they gave up 2 good guns in the sites. There's one player who already bought up, and they've got a lot to save. So I don't know if it's in their best interest to try to go for it. Maybe they see that it's worth it to even get these kills if they can. ZywOo comes off with a P250 headshot to start things off.
Oh, and then they try to exit quick. Alex cleans up 2. That's all of them, and there should be still some time. They're going to jump on this bomb, and they've got it. Everyone's got a kit, except for RPK, so he gets out of the way, and Vitality still take the round.
Oh my god.
Very close to the end there. Do you think there's a reason OpTic go charging out window?
Yeah, because if they charge out window, if they get the kill outside of window, then they have a fine after plant. That would actually be totally legitimate. I think they got really scared when they lost tunnels control, because whoever's sitting on default is prepared to stop someone from coming in the door. You have a car player who can stop someone from coming through the window. But once the tunnels player is lost, that's supposed to be like your ace in the hole. That's your last player who dies. So then you can flip it around and go from outside the window or outside the door, and then all you have to do is like peek in the door to shoot anybody who's defusing on default, and you have total cover from a lot of grenades. It's hard to tell from the inside whether or not it's going to be a window or doors peek. There's a lot of reasons why that would work, but Vitality were smart in tucking their player outside of the site into such a position that once they went out the window, they thought all was clear.
And then they found a very rude awakening.
And it's very difficult to tell anybody, but it's very difficult, obviously, to try to retake the B site, and that was probably the best way they could have done it.
Whoa, good trade quickly off of Refresh. ZywOo down for the count. Alex within the bomb site flashed, and he does have support from teammates running over. The utility goes dry for OpTic. They are straight out of nades and soon to be out of lives. Snappy will join them from mid as a late rotate, and his result is all the same. Death and decay for OpTic here on A, and a solid hold from Vitality.
So OpTic falling a little bit short now. It's going to be another rifle buy with Yugi opping. Once again, not having armor. I want to say, yeah, it doesn't have armor again. I don't think he's had armor a single time that he's off this game. Maybe one round in total.
I like that trade frag. That first one, the deagle to op kill. You know, that was smooth. It's a good start to what could have been at least a bomb plant, but Vitality, they had layers to the defense. They were ready.
Pretty deceptive smoke at mid. Try to peer over. Good early HE damage.
Followed by an important smoke, because Apex was all alone versus 4.
It seemed like they had the full intention of trying to hit B directly in between two nades, if it was going to be a smoke, or right after a Molotov, if that was going to be the case, but now it's kind of a change of plans. A little bit of a boost into lower, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible, making sure to silent drop and everything. So I will go ahead and flash for himself at mid. They've got a player up close by the door. They could try to bait OpTic into running out mid, but Alex will be here.
Whoa.
And the spam is not quite good enough.
Whoa. Apex tries to make a move, and Refresh ready for it. As we saw that Molotov burn Alex out of position, he'll immediately return. So down by 1 and relying solely on flashbangs. There is still a lot of utility for OpTic to execute with. Very little counter grenades to come back from the other side. And as ZywOo picks up 1 kill on mid, yes, he's drawn them forward, and right into Alex goes the bomb. Of all the pieces of the puzzle, that's not one you want to lose. NBK immediately takes his place. Yugi tries to fly forward with frags, but it's back and forth again and again. RPK versus Refresh, and Refresh comes in from behind. With 8 seconds left, there's no time to plant. He needs the kill. He needs the duel, and he's not going to find RPK. Cedric exits through mid, and that's Vitality with a 15th round.
Oh my god, it was so messy in those last moments. But yeah, Refresh making a bad read. Unfortunately, even if he understood that RPK had pushed through the mid doors, which was kind of the riskiest way that he could have exited, so I understand why Refresh thought he maybe just fell back to CT spawn. It would have been hard to find him up at top mid. It was a good opening trade from him, but this mid bait setup was too good. And I thought Alex bit off a bit more than he could chew after he got the first kill, going back for more. And we've seen a lot of that happening in this match, but Vitality, have at it. You guys are 8 rounds up at this point. They can afford to lose 1 or 2. Config posted up on Cat. 4 players here from OpTic at long. They've got a ton of control so early on. Config makes his presence known. ZywOo gets peppered down, but a flash will help. RPK try to kill Config, excuse me.
Ooh, Config comes back up peeking and prying into two waiting members of Vitality. Now ZywOo's op already trained forward versus Yugi. A follow-up kill is his. These pistols are going to get nothing done versus the sniper of Vitality. So they will try to reposition here. Snappy's Deagle, Cajun's op versus ZywOo and NBK.
Yeah, good opportunity for an interesting mid-round from both sides. For ZywOo, he's got a great spot. He doesn't know if they'll come late long, which is something that will cross his mind in a few moments, you'd assume. But he could just push forward onto Cat and still have a very nice fight on his hands, especially if it's going to be late in the round when you know a team's got quite low utility. Or he can fall back to Cat, or fall back to Sight, excuse me, and have a very favorable engagement at long. So he doesn't have to do much other than patrol. And his teammate is just going to basically lock down B. But ZywOo gets caught on the crossback. Cajun's got an op in his hands. The bomb will certainly get planted in this situation, leaving NBK alone to fight against both. Cajun, however, is too composed.
Yep.
Easily hits that op shot and moves OpTic one round forward.
Takes a couple shots to the legs there, but obviously NBK just trying to dwindle down the numbers before the clutch retake gets going. ZywOo jumping on the A site and caught out by Cajun.
He didn't need to extend that far. I'm not sure if he anticipated that there was an op. Maybe if he thought, okay, there's no op, then it's fine. But he had a lot of options. He could have just, if he just went and walk cleared that angle, for example, probably would have been favored in just killing config op for op. But could have done a number of things. Probably picked the worst one. We'll call it awkward timing.
And that's what you get. You op me, I dig you. ZywOo takes the 5v4. Ooh, now you know Yugi's going to feel pressured because that pistol player could be anywhere. Draws back Snappy for at least a moment just to ensure he's not tucked away into the corners. And ZywOo with swift repositioning. He's going to look to hunker down on mid.
Conflict's got a lead, but he can't extend too much farther, and NBK once again goes for the tunnels push. It is a pistol round, but it is 5v4, and another AK has been collected. ZywOo puts up 3.
I mean, if he needs to be the difference maker, he's going to be that guy. In what could be the 16th round for Vitality, he nearly picks up a 4K with nothing but a deagle. The rest of Vitality now surely looking to swarm down and clamp onto what remains of OpTic. Bomb's been dropped, RPK's close, Refresh's aim drawn in 2 directions, so there you have it. 16-8, and the Frenchmen will take their win.
They make it look easy, and I want to say they used just such a low amount of utility throughout that match. They kept it as simple as possible on their T side, and they were never pushed into a position where they needed to do a lot more. I felt like OpTic kind of were open to losing to rounds that were very simplistic, and so you can't really fault Vitality for doing that. They maybe looked a little bit rough around the edges, but again, so did OpTic. So at the end of the day, it was a dominant performance, and Vitality looked pretty good.
Dominating performance in a map that we thought maybe could go either way, right? It was a close one that could have gone in either direction, but this one's going back in the direction of the analyst desk. It's the Alabama boy with the unbuttoned shirt. It's Tres Stunna Sorrenthus.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. I was actually just very curious if ZywOo added a D to his name for the deliverance that he just gave right there on that last round. My goodness, quite the showing to close out there on the side of Vitality. I wouldn't say it was easy, but they definitely were a front runner in that first half, all the way through to the second half as well.
Obviously tapered off a little bit, and it looked like it could have been closer going into that second half. But what I think is impressive to me is it wasn't what we see online in a lot of occasions where ZywOo is that carrying factor and he's the only one contributing. This was definitely a team effort from the Vitality squad. You could see everybody contributing when they needed to. It didn't feel like there was too much pressure really applied to them in many occasions. And this is what I want to see happening, the older dogs in the team coming up and showing that experience, because we know there was that period not long ago where RPK was just dominating, and we definitely know that Apex and NBK still have it. They're still young players, really. They're just achieved a lot very early.
You've got to wonder, Natu, I mean, speaking from maybe your experience or whatnot, if you see a player leave the fold, such as Happy, now does that reinvigorate? Does that reignite what they've got going on over here in this project? I mean, you've got some young guns in here, you've got some fresh blood in here that can definitely get in the trenches and get it done down and dirty. But I mean, maybe this is just what they needed. Maybe there's a little bit of a spark.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of, I feel like there's still a lot of quality players out there in the French scene that should be introduced into the top teams. And it's great to see finally the old guard, maybe, they're not part of it anymore. They're getting these new kids in, and I think that's big. But in the big picture of this game, it felt to me like, we talked about the experience on this Vitality lineup, they still felt to me like they were a little bit timid in the early parts of the game. Their timings were off. They were taking, like there was a round where ABK would throw all his grenades basically to be bomb site, and then everyone else committing along, they would throw the cross smoke and get ready. But all they did was just get behind the car and kind of wait for a reaction from OpTic. And then it took so much time that OpTic managed to just basically have 4 people on that bomb site, and it became a round where they had no possibilities. But in the big picture, also from an OpTic point of view, they did not take enough initiative. On a map like Dust2, on a CT side, you kind of try to make plays. You're always going to be taking a bit of a risk here and there, meaning that you're either going to be leaving catwalk open, or you're going to be leaving long open, and then making plays afterwards, having a bit of a stack here and there, and try to be aggressive in your face, because I felt like the opportunity was there to try to rattle Vitality.
Which you can maybe attribute some of OpTic's woes here to the newfound addition of Refresh. But one thing that's not going to be new, but a natural-born killer in all of that, will be MBK himself. He's going to be down on the sidelines. We're going to get the chance to check in with him. James Banks is standing by.
Thank you very much, son. I'm back where I belong, back where I feel most comfortable, the bit I love, and finally I'm getting to speak to Nathan again. Firstly, you were just saying to me you expected Dust2, but we had a conversation yesterday about some of the maps and differences that Alex has brought to the table since he's joined. Is this one of them?
Yeah, I mean, we have some surprising in store for all the matchups that we have. I don't think that we're expecting Dust2 in the best of 1 because our stats have been looking pretty bad. I think that's our worst rated map out of all of them. So yeah, we worked on some interesting stuff. Alex as an individual also prefers different maps that Happy preferred. Okay. So that really plays a role into how strong we're going to be on this or that map, and we can play with it. So that's the interesting part.
Now, you guys get a lot of criticism in the terms of everyone saying, oh, yeah, well, Zyru now being the young star, he's going to be one leading the charge. But this was a team performance. This was a strong game. How is it just feeling for you guys at the moment? What's the big change for you guys? Is it just the fact you've had to come from the bottom and grind all the way back up to the top again?
I think the scene is so competitive right now that the games we're playing, whether it is here or online, like Mountain Dew League or qualifying and stuff like that, all of the games are pretty hard because all the teams now have some substance in their game. They know what they want to do, and they have a lot of talented players. So we have to be focused no matter what, and I think it would make a very good story to say, we came back from the bottom, and we had to grind our way through, and we made it. So that's one big motivation, but also one of the very big part that we have right now is that with the addition of Alex, we know exactly where we want to go as a team, and so we're a unit, and that's very important for us. That's what we're looking for. And now coming into the tournament, despite not having the most practice or anything like this, we're feeling pretty confident because we're on the same page. We're working very hard to get the goal, and yeah, it's an important tournament, and I think we're going to shine when pressure is on us.
Well, you've certainly shined so far. You're going into the best of 3s next. And one thing I just want to ask you to finish this off is, what is the big difference to you personally? Because I've spoken to you many times before, and this is the first time I've seen you this confident. It's probably since 2015. So what's the biggest difference for you personally here?
I don't know. I feel that we have control over what we're doing. And for example, the rounds we lost against OpTic, we were looking for ourselves, and we were not sure. We were pretty hesitant in what we were doing. And so when we have control of that uncertainty, we're comfortable with what we're doing because our game is ready, more or less. Alex took all our game with quite some ease, although we have quite a lot of stuff. Yeah, it just... For me as a leader, I'm far confident in the team. Like I trust everybody, and everybody can make moves. Everybody can be aggressive, passive, whatever. I trust everyone on the same level that they trust me to lead them to victory. So having that balance, in my opinion, is extremely important as a team, and that's what we have right now. So that's why I'm very confident that we can make it. Plus, we have Zyru. So even if we screw up some stuff, he's going to be here having our backs, and we can always count on him.
Hey, just like that last round then, right, with the deagle that came into play. It worked. Thank you very much, Nathan. Very good speaking to you once again. Guys on the desk, back over to you. And what do you make of all of that? Because Vitality, they've come here and they've come to play.
Yeah, the one sentiment I'm going to be running away with all of that was Nathan, NBK, Nathan, said, started from the bottom, and now we're here. That's what I got from all that. Talked about being a unit. There were a lot of things that they did there cohesively, and they did start to look good. I think perhaps the fact that you get a little bit of a slower start, and then it all starts to fall in play.
I don't think it's any mystery to people that the French scene historically has had social issues being some of their biggest problems, right? And the fact that he said that they're on the same page and they feel that they're in control, and having Alex there, they can play different maps. That's something which you don't really want as a concern because of individuals. So it's good to hear a French team on the same page, going in the right direction, and it's looking good early.
Well, we're going to start to turn the page here, but before we do that, I want to give you a little quick B-Stream update. Valiant's taking on Mousesports right now on the map of Mirage. Not looking pretty for Mousesports. It's going to be 7-3 currently for Valiant, and we're going to be looking ahead into our next matchup, which is going to be Ince versus the former Space Soldier. So make sure you're here with us when we come back from this break.